This is Taking Stock on Bloomberg. I'm Pimm Fox. Now, the rising price of steel and the results of the disaster, the earthquake in Japan, for example, have added to a global shortage of shipping containers. The demand has led to an increase in prices for those steel boxes. Joining me now for our CEO sit-down is John Maccarone. He's the chief executive of Textainer Group Holdings. Textainer, the largest container leasing firm. They supply more than 400 shipping companies. John, always good to be with you. Thanks so much for coming in. What's the state of the container market right now? As I mentioned, the disaster in Japan and also rising input costs because it's more expensive for steel.
That's correct. New container prices are at a high level right now. The demand is very strong. As capacity grows, which is a function of global GDP, there has been a shortage of containers going back to the beginning of 2010 that hasn't been met yet. So as a consequence, we find that our utilization of our containers is approaching 99%, which is essentially almost impossible to reach that level.
Now, one of the things that I noted was that there's a program of what they call slow steaming. This is making the trips between various ports a little bit longer, either to conserve fuel or for various shipping schedules. So if you have slow steaming, does that make the turnaround of containers even more inefficient?
It does. It adds an estimated 5 to 7% more containers to carry the same amount of cargo, because by going slower, it takes longer to make a round trip from Asia to, say, North America and back to Asia before they can use the container again for another load of cargo.
What about the age of the container fleet? Is that also an issue right now?
This is becoming an issue because historically, containers were retired from marine service and sold into the static storage market when they were about 12, 13 years old. But because the price of new containers is so high, and consequently the rates that we have to lease them are so high, the shipping lines are reluctant to return the old containers that are costing them less because their costs are going to go up.
What does it cost for a box, for a steel box? Are we talking about like maybe $3,000 a piece?
Not quite $3,000, but the current price for a 20-foot container, which is sort of like a barrel of oil, the benchmark.
That's what we
price.
say, TCU, right?
TEU.
TEU, I beg your pardon.
20-foot equivalent.
20-foot equivalent.
It's close to $2,900 for a 20-foot container.
What does that mean for the construction of new containers? I mean, are we going to get any more supply in the market? That must create some demand on the part of the producers.
Yes, supply is trying to keep up with demand. During the recession of 2009, all the container factories in China shut down for about a year because there was a decline in cargo. Then when the market turned around last year, the container factories had to hire tens of thousands of workers, retrain them. Consequently, their output was much lower than required. So we're still in a catch-up mode that really originated in 2009, was not met last year, and is still not being fully met today.
Now, what about new containers? Are we going to get more specialized boxes? Of course, you focus on things like refrigerated boxes for produce, and you were telling me that there are containers that have basically fish tanks inside them to transport live eels from Taiwan to Japan.
Right. I mean, that's a very small segment, but there are some, we were talking about unusual things that you carry in containers, and that's one of the most unusual that I've ever heard of.
What about refrigerated containers? Are they in greater demand now?
Yeah, the refrigerated market is really growing, and the reason for that is that you have more and more people around the world in the BRIC countries and other areas that, for the first time, are able to have enough income to buy meat, fresh fruit, fresh vegetables. All of that comes in refrigerated containers. So the size of the market is expanding. And then the other major thing that's happening is that about 38% of all frozen and chilled cargo is still carried in the old-style refrigerated vessel. Those are going the way of the dodo bird, and as they're being phased out, they're not being replaced and that cargo is moving to containers that are carried on board container ships. So it's a terrific growth market. We're very excited about the way we've been able to grow our reefer fleet in the last few years.
Now, you got enough money to do this? I mean, are you spending more money? You've been making some acquisitions in the past.
We had record capital expenditures last year of over $500 million on new containers, and our budget this year is significantly higher than last year. So, yeah, this is going to be another very good year for organic growth.
You're going to be busy.
I am, yes.
All right. It's always good to be with you. Thank you very much, John Maccarone, coming to us from Textainer Group Holdings, telling us about really global trade and steel boxes.